بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Let's start inshallah today's session. Today inshallah we'll talk about creating opportunities for financing in Islamic business. Now I'm guessing many of you all here would have been interested in some type of structure, some type of understanding around Islamic businesses. So inshallah we'll look at touching on this topic, inshallah. And then, furthermore, I would like you all to give me some feedback so we can start structuring the next one or two classes that remains, inshallah. I'm not sure the exact number, but we need your input to have this discussion, inshallah, so we can, inshallah, create some type of direct opportunity or direct discussion around what can benefit you all as a class and as people, inshallah. So you can think about that as your homework, and we'll look at it as well, inshallah. But right now we want to talk a little bit about creating opportunities for financing Islamic businesses or business or Islamic financing, inshallah. So part of it is obviously considering how to manage or how to look at interest-free loans. The importance, obviously, of taking calculated risks, because this is one of the big things that stops people from creating a good business, making sure that it becomes successful and so on. And obviously dedication towards making sure that you fulfill all of the commitments that is needed, and that somewhat checklist that we touched on different topics as we are going along. So maybe we should try to gather a checklist of some of the things that you can look at in a simple term, how you can create your business to become more Islamically structured, so that inshallah you maximizing the barakah and the blessings that you can get as well, inshallah. Let's talk a little bit about some of the recommendations, inshallah. So first thing is the concept of and importance of interest-free loan. Now, what is an interest-free loan? I mentioned this in one of the classes before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to a concept, and we take that verse and then we apply this interest-free loan. So it's called مَنْ يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا فَيُضَاعِفَهُ لَهُ أَضْعَافًا كَثِيرًا. Allah says that who is there to give Allah a godly loan, to give Allah a godly loan so that He multiplies many a times, right, into many different folds of how much was given. So this concept is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about, the loan of good deeds and doing good practices and so on. And furthermore, in contributing to aspects of jihad and aspects of giving and being generous to the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something obviously that we should always encourage, and something that we should talk about more often, the need of supporting dini activities and those things that help and support the deen of Islam. So in that principle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about an interest-free loan. So qardan hasana. So the word in Arabic is qard, qaf, ra, dhad, qard hasana. Right? So is taking a loan, that a type of loan that is beneficial for obviously a type of financing, a method in Islam where the lender provides a loan without expecting any interest. Now, sometimes you would ask yourself, who's there to give a loan without any interest, without any remuneration, without any payback, without any profit to that? And quite frankly, that should be every Muslim who has wealth and who has money and who is able to obviously lend that money, and who does not have any major need for that money. So instead of repayment, it's based upon purely on a hope of blessings, right? So that is in the Quran. So I think it is about two places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this. I think in Surah Baqarah in 245 it has that. So the verse highlights the mere reward of offering an interest loan. So the thing about that is, That's it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, lend Allah, but in reality, you're lending people. And for it, Allah is multiplying the benefit as it helps people in need without burdening them without uh, additional cost. So this is something that we need to kind of like bring about in Deen, in Islam, in practice as well, and highlight the importance in society as well, and also try to encourage it and try to build this as a means of helping small businesses, also helping people in community, helping friends and family, and also inshallah increasing the economic welfare and well-being of people. That itself would be one of the biggest ways and strong ways of financing business in as a Muslim. And this was very commonly found in the lives of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And this is why this is a very strong way of financing a business. So you go to people and you ask, and sometimes you may think that this is a very hard thing to do, but business is going to be a hard thing to do. There's going to be effort, there's going to be hard work and toiling and effort until you make it successful. So you have to be ready to make the sacrifices to be able to make the business happen. So without sometimes this financing, the growth would not be there in a business. So for small business, this is a really sustainable way of getting financing to build relationships amongst the community members, to try and build different types of relationships around people. Because in any case, right, business is something that needs people. You can't run a business by yourself without any customers, without any people. And relationships, as I mentioned before, is one of the key ways of getting that business and movement is by talking to people, getting them to be part of it, showing them what it is, what you're building. And obviously you have to come with a solid idea, with a solid plan, and not just an idea. Many people have many ideas and interest in doing something, but practically speaking and doing a type of feasibility uh, check and see if this is going to make sense, then that itself takes the real businessman to to be able to separate himself from the, as you say, the talkers and those people who just have ideas and not have real interest in making that a reality. So this obviously will require a certain amount of goodwill and trust. Without that, it wouldn't work, right? So that's why even part of a Muslim's practice is to build that trust and that responsibility amongst the people around him. Be timely with your dates, with your time, with your whatever you promise, with your promises and all these things, inshallah. It would work good with family, friends, and community members. That is something that you need to consider, because many a times we often have certain assets around us, but we don't consider them because of certain structures, and that's why ideally you would want to build a Muslim structure around you. And these are some of the components you'll find. So you have to be able to have a good, strong family relationship, friends, community members, so that it is benefiting everyone. Everyone sees benefit in each other and tries to be part of that benefit as well. This is obviously a real way. Maybe you could put some comments in the chat, inshallah, to try to bring about some maybe experiences you may have or challenges you may have around this. But it is definitely a means for businesses that are just starting out, facing short-term financing needs. Obviously, short-term will be working here. Long-term, you may have to look at other structures, because if you want something longer, unless someone is willing to give you that amount of years to be able to repay the loan, then you have a little bit more challenge when it's long term. So short term financing, this is a real way of doing that. You go to certain people and try to look at mini financing for micro businesses, inshallah, and inshallah that would start one of the processes. So it is a way. Obviously, no doubt about it, you need to be very trustworthy, and you need to try to ensure that people understand your trustworthiness and your timeliness in things like repayment and giving information, giving understanding of what's happening and so on. So that's something we all need to always consider and always better, inshallah, so that that becomes the main just a selling point for someone to be able to give a type of loan like this. Secondly is the necessity of taking risk is something that we as Muslims need to understand as well. There is a certain amount of risk taking. Obviously, it should not be such that you're taking risks in a way that is not measured and not something that you consider properly, but it needs to be calculated. So, in this second point, risk in business encourages us to take long, not long, but calculated risks, and they do not they should not have major uncertainty. A lot of times people say, okay, well, look, I have someone who can lend me money, and then they go and take money, and then they have not do their due diligence in getting it together and making sure that it's profitable, it is something that is moving, something that is a good product, you have a market for it and so on. And again, it can't be on whims and fancies that we think that, what, Allah is going to put blessing and barakah in my business, when you're not doing the basic requirements of having a sustainable, good structure to a business. It's not going to work, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a sunnah as well, and He's going to ensure that the sunnah of how things work in the world is going to take place. So it is not right for a person to say, I have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm just going to do this business and Allah is going to give me barakah in it. Right? But you have to be considerate of the affairs of people, the loans that you're taking, the people who you have responsibility generally for, and then you do things in a way that is considered upright and well planned. Because tawakkul means that the person takes all of his measures, takes all of the efforts, and put everything together, and then afterwards he goes ahead and he has trust in Allah that Allah will take care of all of his affairs. And that's actually one of the points that we have to bring up as well. So you do have to have a certain level of uncertainty to innovate and to succeed in business, right? We know that this is the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum as well. They would take chances, and they would chances in the sense of they would take steps, risks. The caravans. When you look at some of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you look at how beautiful the structures were, you should keep reading that with that eye of how was business done. You'll see some really nice little interesting things, and how they would go out in the caravans and they would get attacked, right? And sometimes the Muslims would attack the caravans of the disbelievers, and sometimes disbelievers would attack the caravans of the Muslims and so on, until they had to form a treaty for the benefit of trade. So you see, these things are trade driven. Many of the wars as well, and some of the things that took place was trade driven. So that's why it has such a strong impact in our world, and we need to bring about that impact, or at least that consideration and importance in the world of the Muslim, because quite frankly, we have adopted the practice of the commercialist society, where we become workers. That's it, workers. We work for everyone else, and we don't innovate ourselves and succeed as a proper business entity. So the point is, Islam sets boundaries to ensure that risks are taken responsibly and ethically. For example, when we encourage to have tawakkul and trust in Allah, we plan carefully and we ensure that we have a good plan. Example, you're trying to build a new product, and you might be unsure of its outcome. Still, as long as you have done your research, assessed the demand, and planned for different outcomes, you're taking a responsible risk that could lead in significant success. So that's something that is really important, that you are measuring everything and you're trying your best to make that happen, inshallah. So that is the structure that you should go about. So that being the first one, being you're taking a loan, right? That's definitely one of the direct ways of getting a thing. The second thing is the structure. You do have to be ready to take that risk. And when I say risk, is sometimes risk in asking for a loan, looking for opportunities, searching for different elements that is there, looking and researching and trying to build yourself. And then after taking that risk in the sense of putting yourself out there, taking the steps that you need to take to make sure that it works, and then working hard. And that's the third point, working really, really hard and dedicated, ensuring that it is right, and also securing if you go the other route, which I spoke about, I think 2 classes down, is things like murabaha, mudaraba. So different models that you can get finance away, partner financing, or someone gives you a certain amount of partnership. So key partnerships are mudaraba or musharaka. You join on with somebody else, they fund you, and then you go ahead. So that due diligence you're supposed to have, you have to work your tail out. You have to work hard to make sure that it's working. So let's quickly go over that. A mudaraba is a partnership where a partner provides the capital and the other provides the expertise and effort. So people who have some type of money and so on, they will look for persons who can take that money and use it, utilize it, and get a profit out of it, and then the profit comes back partially to them and to the person who's doing the work. So this is a common practice, and we should have more of the discussion. So you're giving people that mudaraba opportunity. Hey, I have so and so. I have a little bit of money. I want to put it into a thing, and people come with their projects, and then you have a middle person, which essentially a bank, a credit union, someone who takes up that responsibility to look at the both sides and to ensure that there's some type of security. So that's a really good job that the bank does. Right? So there's a agreed ratio, right? And only the capital provider bears the financial loss, because in Mudaraba, you're financing him, he goes and he does the work. So he's putting in the work, he's putting in the finance. So it's a shared effort towards that. So that is one of the major ways of doing this as well. The second thing I mentioned is musharaka, where both parties they invest capital, and both parties both benefit from the profits of it and the loss of it according to their ratio that they have stipulated between themselves. To make these partnerships work, and this is the point I was making, due diligence and hard work. This is the third point. It's crucial to show dedication and willingness to collaborate. This means that you have to build trust, keep clear communication, and demonstrate your commitment to making the business successful. Hard work and transparency are essential, especially when providing profits and loss. Partner finances relies heavily on both parties being on the same page and staying involved. A party is not going to say, hey, I am not seeing my partner, he's gone off on a vacation, who's taking responsibility. So that's why you outlined all of the responsibilities each person will have initially, and then you stick to it, because that is something that obviously you will be questioned about, and that wouldn't be the partner that you would be making that agreement with will ensure that will ask or question you towards your responsibility, because it wouldn't be successful if it's leaning towards one side. So everybody has to pull their weight to make it happen. So it's very important, inshallah, to try to choose a model. I did show you some of those models. I don't know if I sent you a handout, but I will. If I didn't, please put it on the chat if I didn't. These models again, because it's good to understand the concept and try to create these concepts amongst people, because the principle is just there in Islam. You now have to figure it out. So you have to see which Islamic model makes the most sense. Islamic businesses often benefit from models that don't require heavy collateral or complex documentation. They are supposed to be practical for a person. You come together, and that's why when you use these terms, sometimes people can get a little bit confused. It can become a little bit difficult for people that, was this murabaha? Was this cost plus financing? It's simple. You buy an item, you add a markup on it, and you sell the item to the person. The person now buys it. Straightforward model that the banks as well, they would use. They buy an asset and resell it to the business as a markup. It's beneficial for small businesses. Does not need tangible assets like equipment or supplies. It's very straightforward, because they have an item they need. They have a car, for example. They have a machinery. They know exactly what it is, and they know the price that they pay. Just straightforward transaction, and you make a written agreement on it. So the markup is agreed upon in advance, and it makes it clear and manageable how to deal with it. In the Qard Hasana, the loan or the interest-free loan, which you mentioned earlier, this model is interest-free and works with small businesses needing short-term capital. It's also a good option within community networks to try to build trust and mutual support. right? So that's that. The other one was mudaraba. Mudaraba is profit sharing partnership. So two people come together. The model is great for business with expertise but limited capital. So somebody have really good skill sets in something, and they want to get finance because they don't have the financing. You go and get a financer, and the person gives out. So skilled individual, somebody has a clear business plan, and someone puts capital in there, and then they get a percentage of the profits that is received. This allows the expertise to come together with the financial side of it, and it works really good. The fourth one is the Musharaka model, right? Musharaka model is equity partnership for businesses looking to scale. Musharaka can be beneficial as both parties contribute capital. The risk is shared, and it's suitable as well for growth-focused businesses that don't want to fully burden themselves with debt, because you're going together in this business. If it's working, it's working. If it's not working, two of you all just get that problem together solved, or you lose together. As a small business, I would always I think murabaha is a really good option. um Small items that is very distinct. The hasana is good because you say, I want to buy this car, this is the amount I'm paying, this is the amount that I'll be time frame that I'll be needing. This is kind of specific, right? And obviously it depends on who you're going to and what you need financing for. But generally speaking, if you want this to work as a business model, murabaha is a good one, because murabaha is that the profits are agreed and shared as well. So then someone, they know that, okay, there's little bit of maybe work that they'll have to do, but there's a benefit that comes to them as a financer, inshallah. Okay, so we'll stop there as well, inshallah. There's a few little things that I wanted to highlight, but let me leave this 5 minutes, inshallah, for quick discussion if anybody wants to bring up anything. So you tell me as well, for you all who's here, which model do you think you see interest in? Why would you choose it, and what type of goals you may have in financing? You feel free to put a little bit messaging in the group, in the you can unmute yourself as well and speak. Now, some of these things I did cover it before, but I wanted to re-emphasize that these are the ways that a person would get financing for their business, and something that you can explore further to be able to look at opportunities for a business if you're looking for financing, or even to go to smaller businesses and you're looking to finance them and give capital towards them. So it's a structure that we need to kind of emphasize and implement more, inshallah. Okay, we have, I can't remember the X name you used, but the first one, buy, add a markup, and resell. Yeah. So that's pretty simple and it's straightforward. You buy something, you come to them, somebody who's providing the financing, and we've seen this happen before, and very simple. And especially for things like businesses that run already, especially when they need like a piece of equipment, or they need something that they would be um, trying to use to, inshallah, build their skill sets. That's why it's very important that people focus on certain directions that they want to go in, and then build it, keep working at it. Because one of the things, the shortcomings that we have as people, we want things fast, especially the times that we're living in. We want quick results, and businesses do not mature in a quick way. This, as I say, these get rich schemes, it's really a scheme. get rich Ponzi schemes, or these things saying that invest this, you'll get this much return and so on. There was just recently a big Muslim um, portrayed as a Muslim system in UK. It's on quite a few social medias. People are commenting on it and so on, because in the Muslim community, everybody wants to create a financial model that allows people to make money and is halal, right? So there was one called Muslim Pioneer. So if you research it up, just say Muslim Pioneer and so on, a scam or whatever around Muslim Pioneer. And this person, I've actually seen many of his work since 2020. I was actually following this same story and him and these kind of things. And he's promising people, so much more return, right? But it doesn't come like that. And you can't expect one, first of all, maybe in a Shaz or Nadir, which is like a red herring opportunity. It's like 1 in a million, you get an opportunity. You invest in something and it blows up. And that's why people invest in small startup companies, because sometimes startup companies can become great. So investors, financiers, what they do, they actually, I mean, in a corporate world, they actually literally look at models and they invest in each one of them, hoping that out of the 100 that they invest in, one of them will be successful, and that one brings back all of the investment that they put. So there's a simple system in their mind. You have to invest in all of them. You'll lose in 99 and you will win in one, and that one will be sufficient. So this is the idea. But in Muslim world, we tend to look at Islamicizing everything in business, which I'm not saying is a general point or problem, but what I'm saying is you would attract customers really fast when you say, okay, it's a Muslim oriented, high paying, high return investment, and you're like, yeah, definitely, I want to get something, and you put your money in. And then obviously, if it's not secure, it's not right, it's not even a good structure, then obviously it's going to flop like every other business structure that is not right. So this is one that happened, Muslim Pioneer, and millions of dollars of people's money was invested in really negative and bad ways. And that's why you don't take people's money until you can be fully responsible for it. So that's still ongoing, so you can look out for that as well. You can um follow it online, because it's one of the things that right now is a big issue. How do you connect with people interested in investing or people interested in investors? Yes, that's a very good question, and that's something that is very important. Having the discussion, I think, will make the difference. It's something that, more of you all, for example, today's class, we have approximately 15 of you all today. Some days it's 20, some days it's 30. The reality is, the more that you talk about it and you try to encourage a body and a group, like for example, if the masjid was to open up a system like that, where investors come in, they put in some money, and then people with a structured system benefit from it, and then the return comes back. So everybody makes their payments. There's a strict system, what you would call a cooperative. A cooperative is a very easy way of starting this Islamic system. Like we've seen that locally here a little bit in what you call Muslim Credit Union, and little things here and there that people started. But the reality is that you just need quite a few strong positive people that can make a difference, and then put them together and start the system. It is complicated in some ways, that you need some, as you say, expertise. Like for example, you need an accountant. If somebody's not an accountant, you're not going to get them to do your books, right? You have to get a specialized accountant, which accountant is something that you can find. Everybody can understand the benefits of having an accountant, and also having a trustworthy accountant. It even have to be a Muslim to be able to account. It's just the some of the structures, once there's an Islamic board as governing and looking after the affairs, making sure that it's Islamically compliant, then it's something that can happen. So again, the more people talk about it, the more knowledge is outside there, the more it can actually become a reality. How would this relate to cosmetology industry, beauty industry in relations to a spa, especially spoken towards men? I mean, the idea of the actual spa in itself is something that is possible, even if it's the men, because like there are services that men can benefit from. So basic, I think, I mean, I don't know what's the depth of that. I've never really seen much men into beauty and these kind of things, right? Obviously things like skin, or things like pimples, and I don't know if those are some of the things that would be offered. In itself is okay as a model, once obviously it doesn't have any kind of haram in it. I think it's possible. I don't see anything majorly wrong in it. And financing it obviously depends on the situation. If that's the question, yes, it can be financed, and it can be something that once it has a good model and a good structure and customers and so on, inshallah, it can be something that can work as a business model. Right? Okay, we'll have to end there, inshallah. Jazakumullah for coming out. Let's take some feedback from you guys for the next session, inshallah. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.